Hi, I'm Kendall Fisher. Welcome to the Oracle Customer Spotlight series. On this episode, we're shining a light on Xerox from their Palo Alto Research Center, known as PARC. This is the heart of scientific research and open innovation for some of the most important technological breakthroughs of our time. PARC brings leading scientists, engineers, and designers together to form teams across a series of focus areas that Xerox believes will shape the future of technology, science, and innovation. Please welcome Naresh Shankar, Chief Technology Officer at Xerox and head of the Palo Alto Research Center, along with Anasuya Strassner, Vice President of Cloud Customer Experience at Oracle.
So Naresh, I am so happy and excited to be able to be here at PARC and get a chance to hear from you about what Xerox has been up to. So thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to the session.
Perfect. So you came to Xerox in May of 2019. Maybe we could just start with share a little bit about what made you excited about this opportunity and made you want to be a part of this organization.
So Xerox has got a long heritage of innovation. It's over a 100-year company, and it's evolved. During this time, it created industries that it monetized very successfully, giving birth to the print and office technology, graphics production, all of those industries, which actually created billions of value for the company and shareholders. So it's had a very successful run in the print franchise, and it's continued to grow and scale. And what was really interesting is that there's a huge untapped side of the Xerox family and all of the PARC innovation that exists. And if you think about the last 50 years, PARC has created companies that have spawned companies that have created over $1 trillion market cap in terms of valuations. And all of these companies are very successful today in the industry. And a lot of it is technology that was born at Xerox and PARC. And so it was an opportunity to actually fundamentally think about how can we take this technology at Xerox and actually monetize it, And so how do we develop and create the value, go to market successfully, and enjoy the benefits of a lot of the intellectual property we've accumulated over the last 50 years. So that, in essence, is the opportunity and where this journey started. And so that's what got me really excited about how do you incubate and launch new businesses beyond the print franchise, and how do you create the next wave and journey of Xerox in terms of creating companies with both very strong valuations and get into new industries, new sciences, that is going to be the next 25 and 50 years of our journey. And so it just seemed a way to line up the stars and have the opportunity to actually make a run and see how this is going to work. So that's what got me here, and it's pretty exciting.
So I'd be shocked if there's anybody on this planet that hasn't actually heard the word Xerox, but probably there's certain things that come to mind when you think of the word Xerox that maybe, is something different than what you're looking to evolve today and have people understand. What are some of the things that maybe people don't assume when they hear the word Xerox? What are things people might not know?
I think what people may not fundamentally understand is that Xerox has actually created markets. It's created industries. So if you look at all of the intellectual property we've developed over the last 50 years, it's in very diverse sciences. We invented the Ethernet, personal computing. You've got the graphical user interface. You've got all these initial technologies. And what people don't understand is that we have gone well beyond all those spaces. And what we are starting to do now is move into such high impact industries in 3D additive, in clean tech, and all of the industrial commercial grade IoT technologies. These are huge spaces and markets that we have substantial amount of IP, and we have an amazing story and journey ahead of us to invent these spaces. And that's what we're doing right now. So people don't know that. People don't know that we are fundamentally disrupting the industry with disruptive technologies well beyond the print franchise. And that's what's exciting.
When you look at some history from Xerox, you have that foundation that you can leverage from, and going back and saying, okay, what did we learn from our entire rich history, and then how do we innovate for the future, and how do we create the future? What are some of the things? Can you possibly give us some examples of what are some of the things that you think will transcend beyond print, that maybe you could give us an example of?
Okay, so let me walk you through the journey. If you look at Xerox in its first 50 years and the birth of PARC. So PARC 1.0 was creating the Office of the Future. And then you dial that forward to 2002, we designed something called the Open Innovation Model. And basically, we offered research as a service to the entire world, both public and private sector. And that foundationally helped us create a very, very intellectual property or patent-rich portfolio of technology. So you've got tremendous amount of intellectual property that we've developed over the last 50 years. More recently, we launched a company. It's Eloque, and Eloque gave birth to industrial commercial grade IoT for critical infrastructure. So that's an example of one of the technologies that we gave birth to here at Xerox and PARC, and we can now carry that technology throughout the world, and it's going to have a huge impact on society and safety, right? And more importantly, it helps governments actually start prioritizing capital spend and putting the energy into focused areas in terms of which areas are deteriorating rapidly and where should they be putting their focus. So, and we know there's substantial amount of investment going into infrastructure globally on critical infrastructure. So that's just one example, right? More recently, we've launched a technology called KAR, which is basically augmented reality guidance technology and it's contextual based to actually help, for example, technicians that are in the field to be remotely guided through AR in a way where they can actually very directly and quickly address customer support experiences and issues in the field by actually tapping into a very wide network of very advanced intelligence of technicians, but more importantly, also content and data and solutions that have been widely distributed and available across industries as well. You bring it all together in a very rapid fashion where you're able to actually solve these problems very rapidly for customers. And you reduce their downtime on equipment and things of that sort. And it's a real breakthrough piece of art. I call it art. I mean, It's
art and science.
Yeah, it's a combination of art and science, and it's going to really enhance the whole customer service experience. So we've launched that company. It's a holding company structure, and it's got a tremendous amount of software assets. So so I can go on and give you a tremendous number of examples where we're converting the science to incubated companies. And then we're taking these companies into productization, commercialization phases to the market. And it'll all be in the form of either independent entities, joint ventures, spin-outs, potential M&A and acquisition kinds of instruments. And the goal is to basically fundamentally launch all these new companies beyond the print franchise.
So you're almost your own startup ecosystem as well.
Exactly. And that's fundamentally what our mission is right now, is we are in the business of actually deploying or creating and developing these breakthrough businesses that are fundamentally powered by breakthrough technology. And the goal is to solve real world problems, right, at massive scale. And so all of our portfolio is designed around, either massive business problems or societal problems or climate problems. So that's in essence.
So now what about PARC? Maybe share a little bit about what's happening with PARC right now.
Lots going on at PARC. I mean, there's tremendous amount of technology and capabilities here. And so what we've done broadly right now is we have said that we're going to start focusing because we've got a very broad range of interdisciplinary sciences that go across many domains. For now, what we've done is developed a market thesis around three critical areas that we think will give us actually the greatest value proposition over the next 5 and 25 years. And the first one is around disruptive supply chains and manufacturing. That's that whole world. And so we've introduced our first product and business around 3D, additive manufacturing. And it's all products and sciences built at Xerox NPark. So that's one of the businesses around 3D additive. The second business is around industrial and commercial grade IoT solutions. And the third one we recently launched was CleanTech. And this is to improve energy efficiency by upwards of 80% in cooling technologies. It's one of the largest contributors to the consumption of greenhouse gases. And it has a substantial impact of somewhere around 2 to 3%, which is the equivalent of these greenhouse gas implications are the equivalent of the entire aircraft industry, which is around 2 to 3%.
And it's so neat because if you think about it, what is happening with climate change and clean tech, it's incredible to see the application of the technology that you're inventing right here.
So we're excited about that technology, and that business got launched, and we're hoping to complete I'd say a beta version of the product by the end of next year, and then take it from there. So we've got some very interesting technologies at PARC that we're pursuing right now to get to market.
So then, maybe you could help us understand Xerox Financial Services. Where does that fit in to the picture, and how does that support the other businesses as well?
Yeah, another great business. So Xerox Financial Services is really all about providing a platform of a better financial solutions to help both customers, partners, actually not just sell hardware solutions, but the complete portfolio, and create the avenue to actually cross-sell, right, in a very effective way. Not just enterprise, but more importantly, the SMB market, right? And so it's a business we've started to stand it up. It's called XFS. It's an independent entity. And the goal is for that business to go to market effectively and be a provider for a multitude of industries.
In this next segment, Naresh and Anasuya dive into the principles of designing for time to value and measurable experiences.
Can you share a little bit about, what your perspective is around Oracle and where Oracle fits into that picture as a partner of yours?
So when we started this journey, we looked at what would an outside-in experience look like for a customer, a partner, an inside-out experience. What would that look like for an employee, right? Because when we look at technology we bring to market, we design everything from either a partner, customer, or employee point of view. Because experience is everything, right? So it starts with that in mind. What is that experience we want to design when we ultimately get to market? We then bring together teams around interdisciplinary sciences, which are people that design business models, process models, go-to-market models. And then last but not least is the underlying architectures, right? How do you enable this whole experience? And so we kind of create this three-legged stool around experience to design from an outside-in perspective. And so what we ended up having to do is actually design all of these businesses to be simple, nimble, and agile. Because when you think about a customer, what do they want? They want you to make it very easy for you to engage with them, right? When they engage with your companies, they want it to be simple. They want it to be a really enriching, simple experience. They also want it to be easy for them to consume your technology, right? You want it to be that way as well. So you want this whole experience to be very simple for a customer or partner. So what we had to fundamentally do is look at all of the technology. And what we made a decision was that we were going to go cloud native, mobile native, and digital native, because that would help us actually create and stitch this simple, nimble, agile experience that all constituents want, whether it's a customer, partner, or employee. So we started with that premise. And so starting with that premise, we said, okay, let's work with a strategy that's going to support fundamentally a multi-cloud, multi-mobile sort of set of experiences and capabilities. So that's our fundamental strategy. And so we pursue a multi-cloud strategy to create this multi-dimensional digital experience across partners, customers, employees. And that's where the journey started. And so after looking at several different partners, one of the partners we selected was the Oracle team. And what they helped us actually do was to actually put together a complete strategy around how do you stand up these businesses very rapidly so we can achieve fundamentally our goals, which is the time to market and time to value goals. And more importantly, at the end of the day, kind of deliver a measurable experience for all these constituents, right? For people on the outside coming in, or people on the inside out running the operations, to be able to deliver an experience. So we kind of had to tether all this together. And so that's where Oracle fit in, and put together a strategy and enabling architecture and the roadmaps and et cetera to help us accelerate and execute fairly rapidly.
How are you leveraging Oracle to look at all these businesses and their performance and leverage that back-end system in Xerox so that you can have that unified view?
Yeah, so I think what's nice about the architecture we put in place is that, one, it's tightly integrated, and we pretty much implemented all of the solutions out of the box. And more importantly, we've created standards-based APIs or interfaces that can kind of easily transport data to other entities, right? But at a very basic fundamental level, we wanted to make sure that these entities had all of the transparency to be able to operate and run independently. So that we started with that foundation. And what we were able to do is aggregate the data with all of the different solution stacks that we have to be able to provide full transparency on not just the revenue and all of the different metrics that we typically track around the business, but more importantly, also the user experience. How simple is it to support the environment? So you design for supportability, you design for a customer experience, or you design for an employee experience. The whole idea was to make sure that these experiences can coexist, and at the same time, they can actually be holistic and complete in terms of how the solution is architected out of the box. So the solutions we picked actually gave us the opportunity to actually put that in place. And that's really kind of the whole value proposition around speed to market and speed to value, to be able to achieve that. And then also to create an environment which is supportable, an environment that can be updated and evolved to the latest and greatest of where the market's going, without putting too much what I call labor into the ecosystem. So what we've done is fundamentally move to an automation-based ecosystem. So there's a lot of robotics and process automation in place, a lot of very powerful analytics in place. And then you have the fundamental technology that operates and runs the entire business, whether it's all of the procure to pay, quote to cash, record to report, or plan, bill, ship processes, all of these. You name the processes.
Yeah, all of it.
We've got it all pretty much on steroids. And what it's helped us do is operate in a very simple, nimble, agile way. And we were able to spin up all these businesses in literally 90 days, which was very, very important.
Are there any benefits specifically that you can think of already that you've realized? You shared some just in certain terms of time to value, the ability to spin up these businesses and get them going and monetized as quickly as possible, looking at the performance holistically. Any other benefits or things like that that you can share, that just having that sort of experience-oriented approach in mind, you've realized already?
I think some of the metrics we were looking at is, how rapidly can these businesses transact and start interacting with customers? How quickly could we turn around quotes? How quickly can we create orders? How quickly can we actually configure products through the system and recognize revenue, things of that sort. And that was going to be important, to be able to design it so lean that, so we've got a lot of good metrics around lean.
Do you have any advice or feedback that you'd give to other leaders that are potentially seeing an opportunity that seems almost daunting at first?
Yeah, so I think what I learned very quickly on this journey, and one of the things I always do personally is I have my own personal board of directors. Mm-hmm. And these are professionals in the field, both either professional or personal. And one, they give me a lot of good insight. And living in the Valley, huge benefits, because you have so much of insight and opportunity to collaborate with so many folks. So I think the most important thing coming in, I realized, was I had to really be clear about what I know and what I don't know.
Yeah.
And the second part of it was also understanding with regards to what I do about both these, dimensions, and make sure that I appropriately build and or bridge gaps, right? So starting there, that's something that, so I put a lot of energy in the beginning, actually building and rebuilding the operating models and the teams, because I don't care what problem they throw at me, but if I can get the right team and the right leadership and the right culture, I always find myself on the winning side, problem solving. And so that's the first thing I discovered was it can't be a one size fits all because there's too much diversity in the system. And so you start small with one ecosystem and really shape it and set it afloat. And then you get to the next and the next. And so, very quickly, and the other thing was also anchoring around, sponsors, executive sponsors, and folks that were champions of a specific mission or cause, right? That could really help you think it through and build it and really accelerate. Also important. So I get a lot of help to help me think about these things.
For widespread adoption, technology must be universally accessible. Xerox CTO Naresh Shankar shares his thoughts on how society can accelerate technology into markets in the future.
What's on your mind in terms of like the next innovation or the next possibility for what you want to take advantage of, whether it's around cloud or AI? What's next for you when you think about that?
One of the biggest challenges that at least I see us facing is designing a whole digital monetized economy, and that's going to be interesting because you want to be able to transact in currency which is going to be pervasive and universal, and so how do you remove the barriers to be able to transact universally? From global to region to country, and how do we simplify those interactions, whether it's to impact business or even society or even climate? I mean, it has massive implications globally, but we don't have 10, 20, and 50 years to wait. We've got to solve these problems now, which means we have to be able to execute universally and allow access universally. That's I think going to be some of the single biggest hurdles in terms of how we get this technology to be ubiquitous. And then how do you fund it financially and globally, right? I mean, it's public sector funding, private sector funding, all these different, there's a lot of money in the system, but how do you gain access to capital to actually help accelerate these businesses to solve these problems very, very rapidly? It's going to be a huge challenge. And so most of what we do has very significant implications in the public sector. When you look at these things universally, so it's a combination of bringing the private sector and the public sector together, getting access to capital to be able to accelerate these technologies, and patience and speed is something we've got to solve for, and we've got to figure out here and now, and then how do you get the monetization to track to us? I mean, whether it's investing or even the returns, how do you actually be able to do this? Because it's all new. Getting into climate is new. 3D additive manufacturing, it's a very nascent industry to disrupt supply chains and manufacturing. You pick the industries we're going into, right? It's very nascent. So we're going to have to develop the infrastructures to be able to consume.
So you've shared so much with us, Naresh, in regards to just not only some insight to you as a leader, you as a person, the way that you approach, it's almost, I think of, the evolution of artificial intelligence and robots. It's like the show your work. What's happening in terms of the approach or the way you construct these businesses? And we don't always see that, right? We see the result of the businesses. We see the result of the technology. And that's what's so fascinating to spend time with you today is how do you think about these businesses? How are you approaching them? How are you thinking about the experience in mind that you want to create for customers and employees and then the customers of the customers that Xerox serves? So thanks for sharing a little bit about what's in your head and spending some time with us today. And we really look forward to seeing what's next for Xerox and for you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And it's been quite a journey. And I want to actually take the opportunity to thank the Oracle team. It's been a great collaboration, and it's been probably 2 years in the making or even 3 years in the making since we got here. And the Oracle team's been an instrumental part of our journey. So I appreciate all the support you guys give us. And thank you very much.
we feel it's an honor to be a partner with you in the journey.
From industrial grade IoT that senses the health of society's physical infrastructure to reducing greenhouse gases with clean tech, we at Oracle are excited to support Xerox on their journey to the future. Thank you for joining this Spotlight. It's been an amazing conversation and we want to keep it going. To follow up and learn more, visit our Customer Spotlight page and we can help you get connected to the right team. And as always, be on the lookout for our next episode of the Oracle Customer Spotlight series. You never know which company will shine a light on next.